Now, Paul Mullin had taken a step back last season, not playing as much of a key role in Wrexham's third successive promotion, with Championship football on the horizon. Questions now turn to his role going forward and whether interest from elsewhere could test the club's resolve. Mullin's value goes beyond goals. He's a leader, a fan favourite and a core part of the team's identity. While Wrexham will look to strengthen, keeping Mullin at the heart of the journey could be just as important as any summer signing. We spoke to Wrexham expert Rich Fay to explore the future of Paul Mullin, the club's talisman and symbol of their incredible rise.
So, Rich, looking at Wrexham and specifically Paul Mullin now, on his Wrexham time, over 25 goals in each of his first three seasons since joining. He was absolutely electric, so much experience as well before he came to Wrexham. It seemed like he was just the perfect fit when he did come into this new project. What do you sort of make as a fan as seeing him and seeing his progress over the last few seasons, how good he's been and how he's sort of really stood out when, neutrals started to get a hold of this Wrexham story? It was Paul Mullin really was the centre of, in terms of the playing side of things. He was sort of what you associated with AFC Wrexham.
Yeah, he's still very much the sort of the poster boy of what's happened since the takeover. I think if you speak to any regular fan, they'll say that they know him, and that you become the Paul Mullin team, almost how Tottenham used to be the Harry Kane team. In fact, Guardiola sort of referred to them, and he's been the catalyst. He's so often been the talisman, the match winner, the player who's played the best in the big games, and he's always come good. And that's kind of the tricky position we're in now, because you can't have sentiment in this game, particularly not if you're trying to progress up the divisions. And for Paul Mullin, he still is capable of the sublime. He's scored Wrexham's best goal this season by far and away. He's got 5 goals, I think, in all competitions. But he's missed 2 pre-seasons in a row, and it's really taken its toll. It was this time last year that he really hit top form again. He'd missed the previous pre-season due to his burst lung against Manchester United. He came back into the fray. There was a penalty against Forest Green, and he started scoring goals for fun. This season, it's not really happened. He had his lower back surgery last summer, missed the start of the campaign again. Jack Marriott started scoring goals, and it just feels like it's coming to an end, really, which is so sad to say, really, because Paul Mullin reached the 100-goal mark fairly quickly. We were sort of looking to see how high he might go. Could he have the chance of ever becoming Wrexham's best ever goal scorer? That was always very unlikely. Could he potentially been called up for the Wales squad because of his, sort of maternal roots to that? And that was a genuine debate. Rob Page asked about it a lot. But it's an absolute mute point now. No one discusses it whatsoever. And Wrexham signed 2 new strikers in January. Paul Mullin's fallen further down the pecking order. He's not been involved in any of the last 5 matches. Wrexham said that was down to an injury, but there's only so much that you maybe believe. He's still been at the ground. He still is eager to play football, but you just don't really see when he'll be given the opportunity to do so. The stakes are so high now between now and the end of the season. I just don't see a situation where Paul Mullin starts playing regular games for Wrexham again. And then regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season, if he's already not playing games in League One, at best he could have a pre-season and maybe be good enough in League One next season. But if Wrexham were to get promoted to the Championship, you'd have to say that Paul Mullin wouldn't be a part of that project because he's not been the focal point this season in League One. Maybe it's a draw. Maybe it's that home draw against Birmingham, because everyone was told Birmingham City are the best team in the league by a country mile. That's obviously turned out to be true. They're champions already. They got to a Wembley final, which they lost. And Birmingham have almost been irrelevant because they've been so far and away the better team. But Wrexham had them at the racecourse. They drew 1-1. But for the last half an hour, 40 minutes, they were on top of Birmingham. They should have won that game. And it was the fact that Wrexham had been comfortably beaten when they went to St Andrews. But on their home turf, they were more than a match for them. And that did feel like a monumental point, really. It felt like a performance that really proved that Wrexham aren't just these plucky underdogs. They're not that far off. Still produce those big performances against the better teams in the division. And for me, that probably was the turning point where you felt, okay, if they can do that against Birmingham at home, they can beat anyone.